I don't want to give away any spoilers. The very first time we met, we had a 3-hour meeting. And by the end of that meeting, I just knew she was Lily. We had a very young baby. I did a search to find the youngest baby possible. So we found this 14-day-old baby. The baby would just start screaming. Then trying to get our lines out before the baby starts crying again. Like, the baby's just crying in the worst possible times you could ever have a baby cry as an actor. Hey, I'm Justin Baldoni, director of It Ends With Us, and I am chatting with Cosmo. Early on in the process, right when we started pre-production, we started searching for our intimacy coordinator, and we ended up having 2 intimacy coordinators because we had a big long break in between because we had 2 strikes. We had a writer strike and an actor strike happen. So we had 2 intimacy coordinators, and early on, as I was beginning to start the process of adapting this film, I'm a man, and this is a story that is told through the lens of a woman. And especially when it relates to intimacy scenes and to scenes where there is a mix of intimacy and violence, I wanted to make sure that those scenes had a female gaze. And in no way was I running them through my male brain. As much as I can try to see the world as a woman, I never will be able to. And I know what I don't know. So early on, we brought on an intimacy coordinator, and I started meeting with her to figure out, what are ways that I can shoot this? How can this always reflect back, one, to the source material, and while we might not be recreating exactly what was in the book, how can we recreate the feeling and the emotion and what Lily was experiencing in each of those scenes as it relates to the book? And then when it came to bringing on the stunt coordinator, also, it was important to me that it was a woman. We brought on Lauren Shaw, who's also a dear friend of mine. And we all worked together to figure out, well, how can the intimacy of this and the violence kind of work together? How can we make sure everyone feels safe? How can we rehearse and go through the process? Blake was very involved in that and had amazing ideas and was very hands-on with the choreography of it as well. Honestly, there were many instances on set where I just let the women figure it out, and I took a step back and kind of jumped in more as an actor in those scenes than even as a director, because I didn't want this to feel like it was in any way like these scenes were shot by a man and through a male perspective. I really wanted this to continue and to always be in Lily's perspective and point of view. So yeah, it was great just watching them, and then Blake choreographing and working with them and everybody. It was just, yeah, some of the most fulfilling moments on set was just watching them figure this out, and then I actually got to just jump in as an actor. We didn't have a chemistry read as Ryle and Lily. We had, the very first time we met, we had a 3-hour meeting. And by the end of that meeting, I just knew she was Lily. But no, we didn't have a chemistry read. We did have chemistry reads with Lily and Atlas's, but we didn't with Ryle and Lily. And so I'm grateful and hopeful that there's chemistry on the screen. I'm so bad at karaoke. What's sad is that my karaoke songs right now would probably be a collection of whatever my kids are listening to. It's like every Disney movie you could imagine for years. Let's see, if I had a song right now, I wouldn't be able to sing it, but it'd probably be Don't Stop Believing for some reason. I could never sing that song. There's no chance I could sing a Journey song. I think my favorite scene that I filmed with Blake was probably the most emotional scene in the film, which is the hospital scene at the end. I don't want to give away any spoilers. But we had a very young baby, so I did a search to find the youngest baby possible, because because so often we see births in movies and TV, and they just look so fake. It's like a 3-month-old baby that comes out of and I just wanted it to feel very real, and I wanted the birth scene to feel so real, almost like documentary. So we found this 14-day-old baby, and we shot that scene with 3 cameras. It's one of my favorite scenes in the book, and so of course it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. But in the making of that, you know, both Blake and I are parents, and this baby had a very hard time being quiet. So what ended up happening was, right as an example, Lily gives Ryle this information that you know, that they're naming the baby. I don't want to give a spoiler, but they're naming the baby a name that means a lot to Ryle, and Ryle gets emotional. The baby would just start screaming. And so we rolled for over an hour at one point, and we just shot bits and pieces of us shooting the scene with this baby crying and me holding the baby. She holds the baby. Then trying to get our lines out before the baby starts crying again. And all the while I'm trying to direct and also keep this emotion bubbled up because it's such a complex, difficult scene. But if you watch the actual hour-long take, you'll see that like the baby's just crying in the worst possible times you could ever have a baby cry as an actor. And it just worked, and we stayed cool. She's such an incredible mother, and she was so nurturing with the baby. And so yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes because we also had to overcome so much in order to get the scene right. This is my 3rd film now as a director, and every film has its own unique challenges. It's very hard directing a movie. And this is my first film where I've directed and acted. And that itself would be a challenge, but then playing this character who was also so complex, you add that into the mix. And it was extremely challenging. And yet, it was beautiful and exactly what it was supposed to be. I always say it's so difficult being a director in some instances because, you know, so often the vision of the film is just in my head, and it's my job to try to figure out how to get everybody on board to have this shared vision of what we're gonna make. And, you know, so sometimes, you know, during this process, as I'm playing Ryle or as I'm directing, there's just times when maybe, you know, words get stuck and I don't get it out the way that I want to, or you know, or you know, we're running out of time, and you know, there's always challenges. Every movie is a miracle, but at the end of the day, like that adversity and those tough situations, that friction creates beautiful art, and we've come together and we've made this, you know, beautiful piece of art that I'm just so excited for audiences around the world to see. Thank you so much for watching.